All right. All right. Hi, Michael.
Hello. Morning,
Um,
everyone.
so if you're kind of have been following Outset for a little while, you've probably seen me in a bunch of things, random videos, webinars, posting videos of myself places. But you may not have seen Michael. So Michael is my co-founder and CTO, and he's really the brains behind this operation. And so we thought it'd be fun to have both of us on. And so we're actually in the same building, but figured different rooms to not be huddled around a laptop here. So. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to share just a few slides, and we'll talk about what we want to cover today, and then we'll kind of get into all the fun stuff. So let me. All right. Make sure I can share my screen. All right. Okay. So, so welcome to, this is the talk about the future of usability research, which is really just going to be about Outset and what we're doing here. So, I'll just give just a quick overview of who we are, and then I'll kind of pass it over to Michael to talk about, where we've gotten in recent months, and then we'll get into some demo and lots of questions. We've done a number of webinars in the past, and I love when we have lots of questions coming in the chat, when we get to actually respond to the things you want to talk about and not just hear ourselves talk. So we'll try to do as much of that as possible. But just to get started, so we're Outset. So if you are newer, haven't heard as much about us, Outset is an AI moderated research platform. That means we are helping customers like Weight Watchers and Open Door and Away and all sorts of folks get the depth of interviews, but at the speed and scale of surveys. Kind of get the combination, the elusive combination of depth, speed, and scale by using Outset to have AI moderate conversations, dig deep into what participants say, care about, all those things, and help you synthesize all that also using AI. We've been around for a little while and have gotten to work with some of the kind of most prolific researchers out there, and it's been an absolute pleasure to do so. And so what we're going to talk about today is some of the latest stuff that we've gotten to put out. So I'm Aaron. I'm the CEO and one of the two co-founders. I have a background in research, strategy, product development, design, all of that stuff that I try to bring to bear. And with that, I'll pass it over to my other half, Michael.
Yeah, great to meet you all. I'm Michael, Aaron's co-founder, CTO of Outset. It's really been a privilege learning about the research industry and building the first and best AI moderated interview platform. As Aaron talked about, we've been around since 2023. We were the first to sort of develop this technology. We support companies like Nestle, Open Door, Weight Watchers, Away. And as you can imagine, as a startup, we learn pretty quickly. And so it's been great iterating the product. I love being able to work on this and build new tools for you all. So a little bit about our journeys. Obviously, we started in 2023. We started with AI moderated qualitative interviews. We started originally with just a chat experience, so sort of chatbot type to the interviewer and it types back. Pretty quickly realized that we needed a voice and a video experience where we can capture respondents' voice and or video to really improve the quality of the data you're collecting. And then, in the course of building the platform and working with some of the companies I mentioned, we observed that a lot of our customers do a pretty extensive amount of UX research as part of their work. So we expanded our product last year to enable conducting usability testing. We did that first with a desktop screen share experience. So what that means is you can set up an interview and record the participant's screen, watch them go through a website or desktop experience and gather data and record their screen. And after we launched that, immediately we had folks saying, "I love this. I want to use this for mobile app testing or mobile web testing." So in order to support that, we actually built and launched an app in the App Store. So we support iOS and Android testing. You can do app usability testing or mobile web And similarly to the desktop screen share experience, you can record the participant's screen, watch them interact with the app. The interviewer will actually listen to what the participant's saying as they go through the experience and respond dynamically to ask follow-up questions about anything they might be confused about, have had issues with, whatever it might be. So that's a little overview about where we started, where we are now, and really excited later today to talk about where we're going to be going.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, so as you can see, what I'm showing you right now is just like the original kind of progression, and then the kind of launch into the world of usability. And was interesting is we kept hearing from our customers that the existing usability suite of tools is is effectively, it's very static, very inflexible, and ultimately it was kind of like slapping a survey with some video screen shares. And I think we saw this like as, okay, like we've started to we've given our customers lots of ways to get really deep with AI in an automated way. And what's standing between us and being that usability tool of record? Like, why can't we do kind of the call it pure software of just how do we share screen? How do we build the mobile apps? How do we get the right mechanisms to gather real activity from users while they're having this more in-depth conversation? So kind of merging the world of AI moderator research with the kind of pure software to make usability possible. And so that was a big opportunity for us. And it just, as we both dug deeper into this and worked with customers, it just seems so obvious to us, and we've kind of started this year really pushing on the fact that there's no reason we should have static usability tests, right? If you're gonna go unmoderated and not be in the room, then do it in a smart way, right? And so that's where we're really excited about what we've been able to combine, right? And so we are still early in this journey, but there's a lot that we want to build, a lot of features that we want to add, but we really got to the point at the very beginning of this year where we have the core suite, right? You can test sites, you can test apps, you can test prototypes on desktop and on mobile. And that is through both kind of the software we built on desktop as well as the mobile applications. So we figured that's the right place to jump off to. But I want to just spend a moment on use cases. So all right, we have a lot of folks on this call. Many of you, or maybe most of you, run usability all the time. So maybe this is going to be like, yeah, I get it. But I'll just share some of what the kinds of use cases we're seeing. Because usability is kind of like in some ways, it's not the perfect term because there's a lot you can do with screen share. It's not just about pure usability metrics, which you see on the right side here, but we've seen things from marketing tests. So, hey, we're launching a new product. We have a new landing page. Let's watch, what do people gravitate towards when they're exploring that new product? What is confusing them about that experience? And actually capturing where they're going on the page is critical in understanding what value props are resonating. So we've seen those kinds of tests right away. That was actually the first test that was run with our usability tools, was kind of like a landing page, kind of product market testing a new product page. That's on the left side here. Competitive intelligence, watching not only how your users use your software, but how they use other software, that you might compete with. That's an interesting, again, it's not pure necessarily per usability tracking, but it's also just understanding value props and the experience that you're kind of either competing against, or you need to see a further part of the journey of your user. Then there's the classic design and product evaluation. So you have a new product, maybe you have just shipped something new, or you have a new flow, or you are you have a prototype you want people to go through, and maybe you don't care so much about completion rates and time on task, but you care about what is resonating with them, how is it working. We've had several of those projects as well launch over the last month to basically say, hey, I've designed something new. What is that? How is that resonating with consumers or with our users or whoever the case is? And ultimately, usability metrics on the far right, right? Just your classic how are as people use our software, our tools, our experience, our website, kind of how does this stack up? What are we benchmarking against? Kind of what do those metrics look like? And these are, there are many more use cases. These are kind of the crop that we've initially seen. And there's a lot that we want to build to make these even more powerful. But I wanted to just start with kind of grounding us in some of the ways this is being used today. and our customers, we work with folks that are very, consumer centric. We mentioned, like Away or a Hip Camp or a Weight Watchers, or Nestle, but also folks that are much more kind of B2B focused. So folks like HubSpot, right? So kind of getting the full range of how people are using stuff. So ultimately, we're really excited to start taking the place of some other, incumbent usability tools, and just bringing a lot more intelligence, a lot more smarts, a lot more dynamism to that. So that's the kind of what we're doing. All right, so now let's show some stuff. And yeah, please feel free to use the Q&A for chat. So I just wanted to make sure. And Robert is our go-to-market lead, is in the sidelines here, making sure that questions get answered if he can, just with text right there. But happy to kind of talk to any kind of bigger questions or broad discussions. All right, so I'm going to just hop over here to another tab where we did a little project. I'll show you a couple things, but we'll start off with an interview. A little project that was about kind of how people are using Booking.com versus Airbnb. And so I'll go ahead and share my screen. So as a participant is going through this, they're going to get a link. They're going to follow that link. They'll be asked to share their screen. You'll have a little moment to make sure that your mic and your screen share source, as well as your video, are all kind of set up correctly. And then we can go ahead and start the interview. And here we're gonna, it'll start with a couple of warm-up questions. So bear with me as I pretend to be a participant. This one is a voice, kind of voice only, but we also do a lot of video along with the screen share. Okay, I'm ready to get started. So AI is going to kick things off with a couple of questions. So you all can read that. Yeah, when I look for a place to stay, I'm usually either going to like hotels.com or Airbnb. Those are my two sources. So you can see, the AI interviewer always likes to play it back, make sure it's hearing me correctly, make sure I feel listened to. And then it's asking a follow-up. What about those two makes it your go-to choices? Yeah, I mean, the selection is great. Airbnb in particular, I find I just am so used to it. I use it all the time. And hotels.com has pretty good prices. But that's it. So again, these are warm-up questions. We're not in the usability part yet. And so it continues on to ask about what are some of the most frustrating things you experience when trying to find a place to stay. And you'll notice this progress bar on the top is kind of keeping me, giving me a sense of where we are in the interview. All right. Yeah, I mean, once I had an Airbnb booking just cancel before the trip, which kind of ruined my trip, and that was really tough. So that's been the hardest part. And we'll see, yeah, again, it's kind of reflecting back to me how that's frustrating, and then kind of digging deeper into my experience. Yeah, so after it, I had to actually went to hotels.com to book something, and then found, eventually made it work, but it was just a lot of stress. So it kind of added to the anxiety of that trip planning. So that's a couple of, just the usual AI moderated back and forths here. So now we're in the world of a task. Right? And so you can see the screen has changed a bit. We have some screen share instructions to remind you. And now the AI interviewer is giving me a task. Imagine you're, planning a family trip, et cetera, et cetera. Your goal is to find a place to stay. Let's see. So for a baby, et cetera, go ahead and show me how you would do this. All right. So when I hit this button, it will open link and begin the response, right? And so what that means is it's going to open up Airbnb, which is the link, and it's going to just start recording me. So I'm going to go ahead and share and do it. Okay, so all right, so Sam, I'm just narrating my experience here. I'm looking at Airbnb, and I'm trying to find somewhere in Paris. I won't make this take too long for the sake of the webinar here, but I'll look for a week, 2 weeks in March for 2 adults and a kid. I think we were talking about a stroller, let's say an infant, and I'm going to go ahead and search. And, I'm looking at filters, and I'm looking for, is there something for like a stroller? Okay. I don't step-free access. All right. That seems like a good way to do it. Um, and so now we have a couple of options, and let's just say I like this one. All right, I'm going to go back over, um, and so I'll end my response. Now, on every single task-based question, we're going to also capture completion rate, right? So did they complete? And this is obviously self-reported, but we'll go ahead and say I was able to complete. Um, it is helpful in gathering those metrics. And you can see here, we're gonna start talking about how easy it was, right? It was somewhat difficult because I couldn't immediately put those filters in. We'll just go ahead and say that, and we're capturing more and more data about that experience. Now, if I had said I couldn't complete that task, it would have probed deeper into why I couldn't. Right. So anyways, I just wanted to give this is the desktop experience where you're having tasks and then you're back here with questions, some of which are multiple choice or ratings, some of which are going to be the kind of classic conversational stuff that you saw initially. Cool. Now, the other thing I wanted to share here is the setup. And then the last thing I'll share is the mobile experience because it's quite different and pretty interesting. So here I am back on the page that we call it our guide page. It's what guided the AI moderator to do what it did. So you can see on the left here we have all the different questions of how we set up this experience, and you can see these background questions about that in the setup we said what are the go-to travel websites or apps. We also offered some probing instructions follow up to make sure that they mention that. That's often in our discussion guides. Make sure they give you specifics. We have another question that you saw about what are the frustrating experiences, and we have some probing instructions and all that. As you add questions, you can add conversational questions, multiple choice, just pure ratings, number input, tasks as well, and that's that new bit here. And let's jump in here to the task. So with a task, you can put all of the text you want in this field, and it will be presented verbatim, right? AI is not going to mess with the way you're articulating that task. That's super critical, right? You can also allow the interviewer to dynamically probe about that task, right? So there's certain ways you want AI to probe about tasks. So we've built that into the system. It'll probe about their experience. But if you want to ask about how they felt broadly, how valuable this was, how difficult, you usually add other questions like this rating scale or, a more conversational question of like, how does it compare between Airbnb and Booking.com? So I'll save kind of more exploration of our researcher portal for another webinar here, but I wanted to just share that kind of how you set this up and how there's this new idea of a task, and it's going to capture different data. It'll capture completion rates, time on task, et cetera.
Aaron, before we move on, do you want to just touch on how you can control how the question is asked? We have a question from Hillary about the transition being pretty abrupt and wanting to acknowledge input, control sort of how the transitions are made. And then we have another question from an anonymous attendee about sort of teaching the AI moderator how much to frame questions and get both sides of their experience. Could you just touch on like how you can control how questions are asked?
Yeah, so there's a couple components there. I think number one is how you input thank you, by the way, Michael, for calling that out. How do you input into the guide? Whatever I put in this text will be, how things are framed generally. So while AI may take some liberties to transition from the previous question as smoothly as possible, it will still frame it in the way that you want it framed. So if you want to set up some of that framing, you put it right there in just as you would in your own discussion guide, just as you would in something you might put into a kind of incumbent tool. You just put in that framing there, and then AI will then share that with that framing. There's other ways though to control it more. So you can also use probing instructions to kind of encourage different ways or kind of ways to navigate the conversation after the response. And this is more of a power user tool, but you may have seen this from some previous demos. If you put any instructions into brackets, that's actually a kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge way to talk directly to the moderator. So it's like, make sure to frame up this question in relation to their previous answers, for example. Now, AI does a lot of that too, right? AI will naturally, try to make it a smooth transition, but you can really help encourage and train and focus AI's attention in different kind of ways of conducting that conversation. So again, it's like, compared to a static unmoderated, it's already going to have more of that transition, less abruptness, less kind of question one, question two, question three. It's going to feel more natural. But even beyond that, you have this other kind of way in. So again, it's an unmoderated usability kind of on steroids here. Cool. Were there other I can check my Zoom thing too, but any other questions that have come up?
Yeah, maybe if you can just provide a demo of audio that's less than perfect, someone who takes a long pause, a bunch of ums and ahs. How does the interviewer handle that?
Yeah, so in this, people can take as long as they want to have that response, right? And so I don't know if that's what you had in mind, Michael, but like when you're responding, so this is of course a multiple choice, but when you're responding, you're able to take the time you want because it's I just hit open link and begin, and I can just start talking and talking and talking, and nobody will interrupt me. I'll be taking my time until I hit end response, right? And so we are not, AI is not in the business of interrupting people right now. Like that's not the idea, but instead ums and ahs and how much time you want to take to answer it. AI will obviously wait till you're done and is very good at both transcribing what you've said, right? And so it processes what you've said quite well. I don't know if people have tried transcription services in the last year are like way better than they've ever been before because of large language models. But also then respond in real time to what you've said. And then ultimately, like at the end of these conversations, you have the transcripts that will show you that. So I don't know if that's kind of where the ums and ahs are getting at here, but here's the transcript, I think, of me tried just moments ago. Yeah, here we are, right? Here's me sharing, kind of my whole experience here. Here I am. I'm just narrating my experience here. I'm looking at Airbnb, and I'm trying to find some. By the way, is that sound coming through? I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good. So that's, everything gets transcribed, it gets put back together in this transcript, and then you kind of have all these clips that you can use and download and all that. So I don't know if that directly answered the question. Please, folks, feel free to follow up. And Michael and Robert will make sure I'm covering everything. Cool.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some more questions, but we can come back at the end.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I saw John, you jumped in to talk about the mobile stuff. So let me go ahead and share. Okay, so funny thing about mobile apps sharing their screen. So it's as I've mentioned already, in order to share your screen, we had to build native iOS and Android applications. So that that was a bunch of work, but we were really excited to do that. That's the way you can actually capture all of someone's phone. Great. The problem is you can only share your screen with one source. So I actually can't do a live demo because that would be me sharing it with Zoom and me sharing it with Outset. And so I recorded a video literally yesterday of that. And so that'll kind of show you what the experience was. It really was on a phone, but the way we were able to record it is like we kind of were able to do it with our own devices with our screen recording software. So anyways, I'll show you real quick that what that experience looks like. And I can pause. I know it's like me talking here, but I'll go ahead and play it and we can pause and jump in. Hey, so I'm going to walk through the mobile screen share thing at a time. So I'm going to share it with Outset here while I record it, but I can't do it live on Zoom. So here I have just downloaded the Outset app. So if somebody is sent an interview and they don't yet have it downloaded, the flow will get them right into the download, right? So it'll tell them to download the Outset app, and then they'll click on the interview itself, and then they'll launch into the interview. In this case, I had already downloaded it, so all I had to do was click on the interview link, and here I am in the Outset mobile, where we're going to do a usability test of a particular website. So let's check this out. So to start, I'm on my iPhone here. I'm going to go through a few onboarding steps. So welcome to your mobile AI interview. answer questions with an Outset's interview pop-up. And so we're kind of just orienting the participant to how this is going to work. Since this is a new kind of paradigm where they're going to be in this mobile app doing a conversation. It's telling you how to respond on each step. So click begin response in order to respond. And then you can press minimize as you're in there. So in other words, you can kind of look at the outset question, minimize it, maximize it while you're kind of doing tasks and answering questions. Again, you expand it. And for the next step, you start broadcast. And so I'll hit let's get started. And what's going to happen here is that the kind of system at the system level, iOS is going to ask for the broadcast. Right. Now, in this case, I have already shared the broadcast, so that's why it didn't do it. But once you see that screen, you'll probably be used to that. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm ready to start. Just like a normal AI interview, it's going to listen to what I say, respond in some way that reflects that it's listening, and it's continuing the conversation, and then you're going to kind of move on to the next question or dig deeper depending on the context. So it says, let's get started. Talk about the last time you offered someone a gift card. Let's see. I recently did a gift card for there's a babysitter that watches my kid. For the holiday, we gave her a gift card for DoorDash because we know she orders a lot of food there, and so that was our. And it was annoyingly hard to figure out how to find like a DoorDash. I'm so used to ordering, hard to find how to get a gift card. All right, so this is just a warm-up question, so we're obviously not doing tasks yet, but this is just a kind of the initial question to get the interview started. So now it's probing deeper, as AI moderators always do. What specific challenges did I encounter? Yeah, so I was just in their app, and it was just like the navigation was hard to find how I could actually purchase a gift card. And so I had to work pretty hard to find that, but I eventually did. So it's mostly just like a discovery problem. So that's me, my very true answer. So now it jumps in because the next step is a task, and it says you're about to be on a task-based question. So here, click the begin response in the website to begin the task. So I'll go ahead and hit continue. And then I can press expand. And so this may feel like overkill because we just showed you that onboarding, but we try to like err on the side of really helping walk people through in the moment to make sure that your participants are succeeding in what you're asking them to do. So now I'm looking at the task. Thanks for sharing that experience. Now imagine you're looking to give a friend an Amazon gift card. Could you go to Amazon.com and look for the gift card features? So once I press begin response and view site, then I should narrate as I go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. As you can see, it's now minimized, and I can see. I'm just skipping ahead of my own usability here. Find a gift, that's not a gift card. Bestsellers, home. So it's not right here on the higher level. Never ending gift cards. All right, there we go. And here's gift cards. Now I know how to do it. I did it. So I can go ahead and open that back up. I'm done responding. And here we make sure to capture whether they self-report that they completed the task. If they don't complete the task, it will always try to understand what happened and will follow up. But if I said I completed the task, we'll move on, right, to the next part of this. Here I'm offered a rating. So let's see, it was kind of hard, so all right, I'll just stop it there. I know nobody wants to watch a video on a webinar, but this gives you a sense of what that experience is. I actually wanted to even have you all try it. So what we'll do, and maybe take a screenshot of this screen so you can do it afterwards. But I just a very simple study here. Here, this is how you test a study. So I just built a study. I just took that Airbnb one that we just talked about, and I just adapted it real quick for mobile. I did that, in the last 5 minutes. And what you can do is, if you want to go ahead and download the Outset app on the left side, and you can start the interview by scanning it on the right side after you've downloaded it. This is, so feel free to take that screenshot. Maybe don't do it right now because then you'll miss everything else we talk about, but feel free to take a screenshot of that, and then you can try it right afterwards. So again, I love demoing live. I would prefer to do that. It's just annoying that we can't plug many things into a single phone. But that gives you a sense of what that experience is like. One cool part that you notice probably in as we were once we own the whole native app experience, right, we can do things like it was really subtle, but there's a little pop-up at the start that said, please narrate as you go, right? We can kind of control the experience more, and we'll learn this over time, right? This is all a new suite of tools for us, but are people narrating enough, right? Or are they not realizing that they should be talking, or are they going on too long and we want to put little pop-ups, kind of gentle reminders of what to do? Like we kind of have this real estate that we can really use in any way. So yeah, I think that's most of the demo here. I know there are a couple other questions that I'm happy to answer. I guess I'll just point out, one of the other parts of our platform is we do a lot of AI analysis. And today it has been very focused on how do we get both thematic analyses, sentiment analyses, how do you capture interesting groupings, how do you look at the kind of distribution of people and how they segment. But what we're doing now, and we're just at the start of this, but we're starting to bring more of the usability metrics into that. So we're capturing completion rate, we're capturing time on task. That's stuff we're now doing, and we'll start incorporating that in smart ways. But if you have other ideas, please send them to us of just interesting ways that we can capture, analyze, synthesize the data. And then, going forward, what we're really excited about is a future where you can really, you can bring like the best of all the worlds together. So imagine you're doing a usability test and you're sitting on your phone, but you're on your phone, so you're walking down the street and you can do it live. And at the same time, AI is actually talking to you and not just serving you questions. That means you can stay in context. AI can jump in and say, hey, don't forget to narrate. You can kind of have more of a natural back and forth with the voice while you're doing that. And then also imagine that AI is actually looking at your screen and can say, hey, this person is obviously having trouble. How do we jump in and find out what's going on, right? Or this person is saying that they completed and they did a great job, but in fact they can't, right? Like they clearly had trouble. They clicked on the wrong button 17 times, right? And having a real kind of AI ability to listen, talk, and observe all at once, all in real time, and in the synthesis is really the kind of the vision that we're building towards. And so we're super excited. So anyways, I wanted to stop there. Like we are at the beginning of this journey, not the end. There's a lot we want to build, but we wanted to give you a taste of what that initial suite of usability tools looks like, and how some of it's being used out in the wild. So with that, we got plenty of time that I wanted to just open up to questions. I'm happy to kind of cover some of them in the Q&A. Thank you for pointing out that our chat was not enabled. I believe it is now. It's not, okay, it's not enabled. So use the Q&A, sorry about that. And we'll keep making sure they're all covered. Cool. We have a bunch already here.
While we go through these questions, do you want to throw the QR codes back up?
Yeah. I'll throw the QR codes. Thank you. We can have 10 minutes of silence so everybody can take it, but that's also going to be pretty boring. So let's cover some of the items that have been here. So I know we talked about, let's see. Yeah, so question about Figma prototypes. So right now, what you can do is we let you put any kind of live site link into our system, and you can put a Figma prototype link. We've done it. We have examples of other people doing it. That works quite well. We haven't yet built a Figma integration. So what that means is with a Figma integration, we can start capturing things like literally what button did they click on, right? That's the ability to kind of get at the next level of usability metrics. So that's something we are definitely is on the roadmap. We have not done the full integration yet, but people are already doing lots of prototypes. So that's definitely a super common use. All right. When AI reframes person's question. So one of the attendees is asking a question about AI playing back what the person is saying can focus participants on negative aspects potentially, or an echo chamber. And I would say that's a really interesting point. I mean, the reality is this is a challenge of all research, right? How do you have someone feel heard, feel comfortable enough to continue sharing, feel that they understand what the question's getting at, right? Feel that they are in a position to keep sharing without introducing an ounce of bias in any way. I'd argue probably most qualitative research has elements of bias that we all inject into it ourselves. Like they're just nearly impossible to have a human-to-human conversation with no bias. So the question is, should AI reflect back and make the person feel heard because it reflects back what they say? Got it. I hear you. Thanks for sharing. That sounds interesting. Or should it just ignore it entirely, right? Now, one of the things we've done is you can actually have a setting in our product where you say, don't play it back. So that's just a checkbox, and just says, don't play it back. So you can absolutely do that. So you kind of leave that decision to you. We're not going to make that opinionated decision for you. But we know that a lot of the magic of qual is the ability to have a thoughtful kind of back and forth. And so it's default on, but you can absolutely take it off. So really, really interesting point from one of the attendees. Other questions, we talked about transitions, audio that's less than perfect. So yeah.
I think that's, are you on open or?
Oh, I'm answered. Yeah, thanks. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Competitive intel. Excuse me. So I think that the competitive intel we already had people do, which is really just, hey, go into this other website or log into this other system and share your screen while you're doing it and tell us how you like this experience. There's nothing too novel about, we don't have like a button that says competitive intel. Like that's a thing that people will kind of do however you want. But yeah, it's all about sharing your screen, having them share their screen while they're using a competitive product. So nothing too novel about that, but it is a good use for sure. Okay, so how's the accessibility experience with screen readers? And are there large B2B SaaS companies? Go ahead, Michael, on the first bit.
So we ascribe to the Ally project A11Y, which is a front end sort of project to ensure accessibility for websites. So we definitely develop our product with accessibility in mind. We definitely do work with many large B2B and SaaS companies in regulated industries. Aaron can speak to that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of like large B2B SaaS companies, so we have a number of those. I think regulated industries, like we obviously go through this with new customers of making sure that we can be compliant with those regulations. So like is it healthcare versus pharma versus others? I'd say it's a case by case, but we absolutely work with folks in the pharma space. We work with folks in fintech world, insurance world. So we're pretty used to operating in those environments. Usually the companies themselves already have put restrictions on the researchers of who they should talk to. Is it customers and users, or is it panels, things like that. So voice to voice. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So next question, does the voice-to-voice option continue when the user is looking at a website? So we talked a little bit in the Q&A panel, not live, but we talked a little bit about how we have a voice-to-voice interview mode, which is one of the modes that you can choose from, where the interviewer will actually speak with a synthesized voice to the participant and conduct a sort of human-like back and forth conversation. So that is coming soon. And just to touch on the technical aspect here, interestingly enough, this tech doesn't exist. Like really good sort of conversational logic. It's a fascinating field, linguistics and computational linguistics. But how does a computer understand when a person is done talking? We have so many different cues, interpersonal cues, looking at someone's face when they're talking to you to understand when to jump in. So we had to develop this tech in-house because it doesn't actually exist, and that's coming soon to enable the interviewer to speak to the participant while they're sort of interacting with the website, remind them to think out loud, provide feedback while they're going through it, and sort of ask them follow-up questions while they're in the experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So the next question, did it track clicks during your task so we can analyze in context for comments? So good question, Hillary. So we do not yet track those clicks. So I think that's a couple points on that. With a Figma integration, that will track the clicks, right? Because we'll basically be able to pull that data from Figma back to us. So that will be one way to do it. When you're on a live, there really isn't any way to track those clicks unless you're integrated with that live site. So I know there's some competitors that might have JavaScript snippets that you require your engineering team to go put into your own site, and like that's one mechanism for doing it. What we're really excited about is actually using AI to understand what you're doing and when you're clicking. So that's more of what we're working on today, of like, if AI can observe just like you or I would, right? Like, we don't have APIs in our brain to their site, right? Like, we can watch them click and can understand from the context what they are doing. That's where we're going to focus in the near term, of just having AI be playing that role. But again, as I've said, we are early in this journey, and like that's going to be a big focus of how we start capturing not just have AI listen, but have AI be able to see and observe.
Yeah, and just because there's another question at the bottom of the Q&A. To be specific here, yeah, what we're working on is giving the AI the ability to actually watch what the participant's doing and see what buttons they're clicking on, so that we don't need that integration. And it can say, oh, why did you type what you typed into the search bar? That's interesting. Or why did you click on this button instead of this button?
Yeah, it's the say-do gap. I want AI to be able to close the say-do gap, the gap between what people say and what they do, right? And I think that's one of the powers of, yeah. Anyways, I'm just really excited about that. Cool. What would be involved in making it so that users don't have to self-report whether or not they have finished the task, and for things like pain points to be extracted by the AI interview? I think that kind of speaks to what we're talking about here. Can they be made aware of the experience being tested? Okay, so a couple points here. Number one, agreed, right? Self-reported is only what they say. It's not what they do. So that's to what we've been talking about. I want the self-reported. I'd love to hear the self-reported and see what they do and be able to compare those, because that's going to be a really interesting comparison. So yeah, absolutely, that's a big a big focus. That's what we're working on. Can AI be made aware of the structure of the experience being tested? That's some of what we're experimenting with in this roadmap, right? Is to how can we have the researcher define an ideal experience or the right set of steps or what they are expecting to see, so that AI can actually reflect back that comparison. So that doesn't exist yet, and that's absolutely a big focus of ours. Okay, I'm just going to jump down to a couple of other interesting ones. Can you set the unmoderated test in a way so that the participants silently go through the experience and in the next portion tell us step by step what they did? Absolutely. So you can basically just say, don't narrate your experience, right? Don't say anything, and complete the task. That way, I mean, I like that. If you're gonna like care about time on task, you kind of almost want them to be quiet, because talking will slow them down. And then the next question can be a conversational one where it's just like, tell me about step by step, how was that experience, etc. So yeah, absolutely. All right, another question I saw come up. If we wanted to test something other than a website, like an app or Figma click-through prototype, how is the user directed to install that? And how is the AI moderator integrated in that experience? Well, so yeah, so like an app, for example, we shipped our kind of mobile app test. So that's if you're talking about an app kind of on the mobile side. What you'll do is basically define what that app is, and then we serve that at the beginning of the flow for the participant to say, hey, go download that thing. So we serve that directly. We actually ask you to give us the link to the App Store. Is that right, Michael?
Yeah,
that you put in like the App Store link?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you put in the App Store link, and so we just serve that to them and say, hey, this is what the test is about. We obviously don't integrate into that app because we don't know what that app is beforehand. And so again, like there isn't a kind of deeper integration to something that we don't know yet. But that's how that will work. And again, AI is going to be doing more of that observation over time. Yeah. Okay. So Michael, do you want to answer the first use of the app cover GDPR compliance consents?
Yeah, definitely. We're fully GDPR compliant. We do advertise and require folks to acknowledge that they're going to be recorded. These folks typically are being compensated for their time taking the usability test or whatever you might be testing. So they're typically under contract with the panel provider or whoever might be serving the participants. But we definitely do require participants to acknowledge that they're going to be recorded and advertise. We also, one of our principles is making it very clear that you're interacting with AI. We are very against the idea of hiding that it's AI. We want people to be fully aware that they're speaking to an AI moderator. And what we've seen is that people are very excited. We constantly get feedback from folks that are saying, this is way more fun than a survey. I loved this. I think it's important to like be clear that it's AI and not try and hide it behind AI avatar that's like deep in the uncanny valley.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. There's a question about do we create reports? So I just wanted to just give a quick taste, because I know this is not the topic of our webinar today. But you can see here we pull everything into kind of automated insights experiences as well as custom reports. So the automated one, you can see here we have an executive summary and highlights, that are kind of interesting tidbits you might want to dig into. You can decide to dig deeper, and it launches a chat with your data with a long back and forth. And then we also help you quantify stuff. So to say like, hey, we asked that question about, where are people, what platforms are people using? And AI will help you categorize those, count them up, tag all of them. You can always jump into the actual quotes themselves. You can see here little thumbnails of all the different quotes, nuggets. We actually have started highlighting some quotes. So just trying to say, hey, what might be most interesting based on the context? And here's it continues on. I don't want to go too deep and take too much of the time here, but there's a bunch there, and that's where I'm really talking about. We have done a little bit and are going to continue to bring more of the kind of the points of analysis that we care about when you're doing usability. We want to bring that in here as well. Cool. Does it record a video of the screen share if you want to review that during analysis? Absolutely. Let's see. Based on comments that caught your attention. So we are always capturing. So I think I showed it briefly, but I can show it again of like kind of my own. I think it was here. My own test was this one, and you'll be able to see when I shared my screen. Oh no, this is actually one of our participants who agreed to do this. And so you can see their screen throughout the whole experience. So you can capture all of these downloadable clips and find the points that are most interesting, and you can always bookmark them so you can come back to them. And then, so it records everything during the process. That's of course gonna be what's important to the researcher afterwards. And then, how does the user know that their answers, video, voices, images, and data is protected? So there's consent at the beginning that they're agreeing to have this recorded. And of course, the expectation, and as and you can always add your own messaging. We have customers who will use an NDA that they can kind of, they can include in the flow, right? You can always do that. We have a kind of a screener step where you can include something like an NDA. There's all sorts of language you can include because, of course, your use cases of that data may be different, but we make sure that we have the appropriate consent for that data. And then we also, are very, very, very security conscious with our own data and where it's stored. We work with very large enterprises, and we are, obviously focused on that as a big priority as a company. So without going into too much of the security details. And so, in terms of a participant email list, so we don't have a emailer at the moment. What we have found is most of the companies we work with already have processes in place for emailing their own user base. And so we slot in neatly into that process. So for example, all you have to do is if you're recruiting on your own, you have this shareable link, and all you have to do is put that into whatever your flow is today. Directly into your, whether you're using SendGrid or Klaviyo or something to email your users, you put in that shareable link. You can even have a completion URL. You want to send them afterwards to, maybe you're working with Tremendous or Virtual Incentives. You want to send them to your own little Qualtrics survey to capture their data so you can pay them. Whatever you want to do, you can send them somewhere afterwards. So that's a very kind of clean flow into the processes you have today. All right. Cool. Great. So I think that's about it here. So if there aren't any other questions, I just want to wrap up. This is, I keep saying this because I'm really excited for what we're building. We're early in this. This is I feel like we entered the year finally having the building blocks to offer good unmoderated usability or AI moderated, unmoderated usability tests. We have the building blocks now that it can be run, right? And that's awesome. There's so much we want to build. Everything from how AI is kind of engaging and observing to how, the voice-to-voice technology to integrations with different platforms to everything that we're really excited about building. So the roadmap is awesome. We're super excited about it. And yeah, we can't wait to hopefully, meet many of you. Please reach out if you're interested. You can kind of book a demo on our site, reach out to us directly, DM us. And Michael, myself, Robert will all be happy to tell you more and get to know you. So give us feedback, give us ideas, and let's keep this going. All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.